WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively into the 4th of July. I want to encourage everyone to get out to State Fair and get your chairs out there. If you're in Catonsville, if you're in Dundalk, where I was once the Grand Marshal of the Heritage Fair Parade, we're going to be cracking a few beverages in the Bud Beer Garden over with the Crack the Sky fellas on Saturday night for the 4th of July. And, of course, headed to Merriweather on Friday night, late night, for an M3 celebration. Chris Pica allegedly is going to go to his first hair metal band show with me ever. We never went to Hammerjacks together, and I got the hair this time. Dennis Koulatsos is here. I don't know what your 4th of July plans are this year. I know you fish and you cook out and you have all this good stuff going on, but I'm sure it's a big weekend in the car business too, right? 4th of July, right?
Yeah, it's a huge business in the car business. A big sale is always, so we're definitely geared up for it. For the first time in about 2 decades, I'm going to be off on the 4th, right? So we'll work the 3rd and the 5th, but I'll be able to enjoy the 4th of July just like a normal American with all the fixings and all the goodies. So I'm really looking forward to it, and that's like you won't believe.
On a civic responsibility part of this, my uncle once, I've lost a finger, right? This was a lawnmower incident, but I had an uncle who blew like the tip of his finger off with fireworks and stuff like that. Public service for everybody. Be careful with the fireworks. I see them out the window, and every time they're everywhere, right? I mean,
I don't mess with them. I don't touch them. And you mentioned the Heritage Fair. Growing up in Essex, the Heritage Fair is one of my favorite events. Used to go to it all the time.
Well, why don't you come over on Saturday night? Go old school, then. It's
Dundalk Day.
back.
Look at it. Dundalk, celebration day. I love Dundalk. I have a lot of friends in Dundalk in that area.
Well, I tell you what, for me, growing up in Dundalk, I was a baseball guy, right? I mean, Aparicio is my last name. This would be on a hot summer first week of July. We would be on the St. Peter's Lutheran Church lot playing with a tennis ball, playing ball. If we had enough fellas, we would go up to the school. If we had enough to play, like, let's say, 12 guys where you could play 6-on-6 or whatever. Yeah. Nobody hit the ball to first base, and we pitcher's hand out, whatever. But that's what we'd be doing. No lacrosse stick in my neighborhood, right? I mean, basketball this time of year, a little hot for that, certainly.
Yeah.
Looking forward to football with the Colts back when I was a kid or whatever. But the one thing we never, ever, ever did was kick a soccer ball. Nobody in my neighborhood played soccer. It wasn't a soccer neighborhood. I'd love to tell you that there was one kid, because there was one kid that I played tennis. Nobody else played tennis, but I played tennis. There was one kid who had a lacrosse ball, and he would throw the ball up against the wall, right where I was hitting the tennis ball against the wall, right?
You were
because
upscale.
there was nobody to play with, right?
You were upscale. We never saw lacrosse stick or tennis racket in my neighborhood.
I'll tell you what we did have. A lot of kids in my neighborhood played hockey and roller hockey up at Eastwood. There was always a roller. They turned the basketball courts into a roller hockey rink. So there was roller hockey, all sorts of, things. We didn't do any of the there was no dog fighting, cockfighting. There wasn't a whole lot of gambling or weird stuff. I don't know a lot about illicit drug running or even a numbers game, but like kids and sports and the neighbor, we played baseball, but we did not play soccer. And my wife has had soccer on every day the last 4 or 5 days because she thinks baseball stinks, and she's not wrong. The soccer thing is hitting me. I'm watching the Dutch play soccer because you and I every week we talk about what we're watching. You can't watch the Orioles. Like you and I don't even talk about watching the Orioles anymore because it's not watchable, right?
They're unwatchable. What we did do at Essex Elementary there, all the kids gathered up depending on the season. Baseball season, we played baseball. Basketball season, we played basketball. But on the Essex Elementary playgrounds in Nestor, there were about 6 hoops on each, 3 hoops on each side. And the hoops were held up by 2 posts. So we would play soccer using those posts as goals from end to end on a hard basketball court. And that was our soccer experience in Essex back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, we had all the sports, but soccer, and I've told Pete Caringi this. Pete's like, you grew up in Highlandtown, we'd had you kicking a soccer ball. And I'm like, yeah, in Highlandtown, when I showed up there, I played pitch, hit, and run. I bragged about winning a Tom McCann. I say to my son, if you can find that award, that Tom McCann award that I won when I was 9 years old for pitch, hit, and run. But I played hockey up there. I learned how to ice skate. I was never a very good ice skater. I wasn't an ice hockey player. at all, but I did ice skate up there. But the soccer thing, I mean, you're from a Greek family. I'm from a Venezuelan family. So my family was more baseball. I guess if my family was Colombian, it'd be
Yeah.
soccer because so much of that in Highlandtown was about people coming from the old country and
Yep.
playing soccer. I mean, so that was the Highlandtown sport, quite frankly.
Well, I grew up in Athens, Greece, Nestor. So up the first 9 years of my life, it was soccer all the time. My dad, God rest his soul, used to take me to the stadium to watch Panathinaikos versus Olympiakos, Greek versus Red. Pele was big back then. Johan Cruyff from Ajax, just to throw you some names. Franz Beckenbauer. So my soccer heritage goes way, way back, way back, way back.
Who's the most famous player you saw in Greece? Did your dad take you to see?
Oh man, you know what? No name players. You know, we never had any international teams travel. There was a Greek team back then that went to the European Cup. They won a European Cup, and there were a couple of names, but nobody that anybody ever heard of. So, and in Greece, you know what? Just like a lot of countries that weren't rich, a lot of kids play soccer. During our lunch break, when I was elementary school, we would take a rock and wrap aluminum foil around it, and we would kick. That was our ball. So, and that's why, because all you needed was a rock and aluminum foil and two goalies, and you were playing soccer, and it was like a scrum. It was like watching a rugby scrum move from one side to the other. Very physical. You might have 30 kids on the side, but it was crazy. It was insane, and it was a lot of fun.
See, when I was a little boy, I went to a baseball game in Venezuela, and I have pictures, and I have a memory of it, not just a picture of it. And what's weird is I know for sure my pop took me to Memorial Stadium for a soccer game. And I know it was the Bays. And I've talked about this with Coringi a million years ago. I've talked about it with, soccer people because, I mean, I had Kenny Cooper on 2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
right? Talking
yeah.
about soccer people, right? And and I don't remember like a program from, and I have such a Mary Lou Henner memory for. I mean, I really do. It's kind of I'm much more uncanny than other folks about having a memory of 1972 or 73 or 74. But somewhere in there, I did attend Memorial Stadium. I went to a soccer game. I don't remember much about it, and I guess it never spoke to me. I didn't come home and say I want to play soccer. There was no soccer league to play in my neighborhood. There was nowhere to play soccer. Nobody played it. But I would say this: I have loved soccer in my adulthood, right? I threw parties at 3 o'clock in the morning back in '02 when the U.S. was rolling. I threw parties at the Hubcap Inn, which was the only place that was open at 6 o'clock in the morning for the Poland game and the Germany game back in '02. My wife and I went to the World Cup in '06. I saw the U.S. play. So, I like soccer. It's good. I've never really gotten into the United States version of sort of minor league soccer, which is what we play here versus what they play around the world. But the Euro's on, right? And the Euro's been on for a couple weeks. And my wife it hasn't come to her. Like, it's all over my timeline, and I follow Grant Wall and soccer people, and people in my world love soccer, and lots of people like the Italian team, which I despise the Italian team. So like watching them almost lose was painful. I wanted them to lose, but they didn't lose. So overtime, they got a little scare, so they'll move on. But now we have the Germany thing with my wife, right? Like all of that. So every afternoon here, my wife discovered this late last week in the afternoon. She turned off the adult alternative, the Wilco and the music we listen to, and it's been all soccer here the last couple days. And my eye starts on it, and my eye catches it, and the next thing you know, it's the 38th minute, and I'm rooting for Austria.
Yeah. You're hooked. I tell you what I did over the weekend. I watched Bird and Magic. I watched some old ESPN clips and the 84, 85, 87 championship, and it was just nice to go back in time and look at the rivalry that it was with Kareem and Worthy.
Was there a three-pointer then, or what year was the three-pointer?
I don't recall, but they did have a three-point line.
Right around then, right?
But the three-pointer was rare, though, right? Not many guys were able to hit it, right? So now, of course, everybody just throws them up like they're free throws. But it was just a different era, and TV was different, and social media was non-existent, right? So it was just nice to see the grind and the battles and the stories behind the stories, and the Boston Garden without air conditioning, stuff I think you would enjoy, just the old school stuff that these pampered players of today have no idea what it was like back in those days to play.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He's selling cars over Coons Ford Security Bill. We're talking about great American memories and stuff like that. for me, it's always like these buildings, and I think like,
Yeah.
was I there or have I been there? Like I was watching a game from Sevilla, Spain on Sunday afternoon, and I saw it, and I remember I came this close to seeing Springsteen there. I didn't. I saw him in Zaragoza, different stadium. Unbelievable memory. But like where the world takes me in places like you said Boston
Oh,
Garden, and I'm thinking, I went to the Boston Garden once. I saw Billy Joel there. I
wow.
was at an Oriole Red Sox meaningless end of 93, maybe 92, 93. I booked a trip to Fenway Park thinking the Orioles were going to like be in the race, and they kind of weren't. And I was broadcasting from the ballpark, and my shift was over at like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I did the radio show from Fenway Park that night early in my career, and Billy Joel was playing Boston Garden. I didn't. There's no Google. I'm a kid at the time. I mean,
Right.
I'm just so pinching myself that I'm in Fenway Park. But I had already seen the Orioles play a couple times there, at my fourth or fifth game at Fenway Park. So it wasn't like I was giving up Fenway Park. It wasn't sold out. I mean, the Red Sox weren't a big deal then. You know, it was kind of a dreary September night, in Boston. And I'm like, I remember saying to how do I get to Boston Garden? They're like, you get on the T. And I'm like, what's the T? Do I need a card? They're like, it's the subway, you moron. So I took the subway over and I went to Boston Garden and I scalped the ticket and I saw Billy Joel in the Stormfront tour. So like these old buildings that
Yeah.
disappeared. I never went to Maple Leaf Garden and I turned down a chance to go to see Rush there, believe it or not. And I feel like such an idiot for not experiencing life and grabbing it when I had the opportunity.
No, it's a lot of fun when you're watching these venues, and they're historic and iconic and everything that happened in those places. And now I want to switch gears to my fitness. Right, I've got this high tech treadmill and 32-inch screen, and I can go anywhere in the world. And it's nice to be able to go to places that I've been and run on the beaches and see the same visuals. And
Whoa. Is this like AI or what is
no,
this
this
here?
you got a 32-inch screen, so you're just following this track. And for instance, last week I was on the Everglades and taking trails there and seeing the alligators on the side and the turtles and whatnot. So with GPS now and everything else, I mean, you can put yourself anywhere visually and relive that experience of places you've been. I
Well,
know you
imagine how
travel.
good it's going to be when you get like glasses for it,
Oh,
right?
it's
Like,
insane. Like you've traveled a lot, so you would really. It's mind blowing to be able to go back and recreate moments that you were in
so I
many
could run on
years
the
ago.
beach in Noosa Beach in Australia if I
Yeah,
wanted to.
yes, you can. It's insane. You can have the wallabies or the kangaroos, whatever you call them,
All
uh,
right. Well,
and people.
that's fun. I have a friend in Uganda right now. Literally, a friend is
Yeah.
in Uganda, and if I pull the pictures up, they have warthogs at the pool. And
Okay.
they're like, just leave them alone. They're, just here to eat
Don't
the
bother
grass.
you.
They'll come through, right? And then later on, she had baboons or some sort of monkey, that sort of creature, like out on the deck of her, her cabin in Uganda. So, I want to have that experience. What I want to do with you, and I'm being serious here because I'm going to call you off the air for real this week. I know it's busy. You're selling cars, you already told me you're off on the force. I know you're going to be fishing somewhere. I had Dan Rodricks on for 52 minutes last week. All right. His son, Nick, is a fly fisherman and a guide.
That's great.
Rodricks ran me through lures, things to do, things not to do. And Rodricks and I have been friends since I was 16 years old, and he took me under his wing and tried to tell me how to act, okay? So we've been trying to put this together. He told the story about the day he took me fishing. I thought it was pretty boy, and it turned out it was gunpowder. I had the story all wrong. He remembered everything, including that we didn't catch any fish. So we want to do this. It's part of the Crab Cake Tour. I'm trying to do the last week of August. You have never fly fished, correct?
That is correct.
Why?
Never. You know what? You know what? The fly rod, the movement. I've always been a bass fisherman. I've always been poor on time, so I've got to get on fish, find it right away, and catch. Right, because unless you're catching fish, you're going to have a good time when you're out there with the outdoors, but you're really having a great time when you're catching fish. So I've never took the time to really have an interest in catching a trout, although I would eat trout and I don't eat bass. But I just never took the time to figure out how to throw a fly rod and things of that nature. I would like to learn though. It's a refined sport and it's a regal sport too.
my friends over at Fadley's, she's tried to teach me that, because my wife's like, doesn't love seafood, doesn't love fish, but has had many fish that she's loved, strangely enough, right? Like, she has a barramundi that, she got served in Australia. She still talks about. She likes crab more than she used to. We made scallops here the other day to plug one of my other dear friends, Al Seafood, and my dear friend Chad, who his business caught fire last year. He's reopened over in German Hill Road. I stopped by and visited with him, brought home some scallops. She made them. They were delicious, man. Pistachios and raisins and whatnot. So like we were always experimenting, but like, you say you eat one, but you don't eat the other. Last week we talked about the snakehead and how like you didn't like it. I still haven't tasted it to even know what it is. I remember growing up eating catfish, growing up eating trout. But my parents, they never brought fresh fish home with the bones and whatnot. This is really, Dennis, I'm 52, man, and there aren't a whole lot of things that I haven't tried that I want to try. I have skied. And I'm afraid of hurting myself. I don't really want a broken leg. I don't want to learn. I am a water skier. I can water ski. I have cross country skied in Lillehammer, Norway. Really difficult to do. Really difficult to do. I mean, when you see those people do it, like it's incredible.
They're strong.
So like, a dear friend of mine, literally this week, and both of her children are deaf. She's a really special person. I'm doing one of those special things for her out Dodger Stadium this week that I'll share some pictures. She was once hit by a line drive off the bat of Mookie Betts. So it's a long story. But she was paragliding, sailing with her kids off of Torrey Pines the other day, off the beach, like those people did at the golf thing last week.
Yeah.
And so like all of these like, I wouldn't jump out of a plane. My wife wants to do the Top Gun thing and she wants the safari and I want a safari. But like the fly fishing thing is one. My wife's like, what is this? Like, why? And I'm like, because we went to Montana and my friend Mike Marlowe did it 30 years ago. And Lefty Cray, Google him. Lefty Cray
I know who
is
Lefty
the
Cray
Michael Jordan of fly fishing. And every week, and I can imitate Lefty's from the South. Now, I don't know from North Carolina. I don't know where he's from, but Lefty had a way about him. It was a little like Dusty Rhodes almost. But Lefty would invite me. Lefty gave me advice on where to go in Jamaica when I went to Jamaica in 1986. And like Lefty loved me. And anytime you want to go fly fishing, son, I'll take you out. Wow. And I'm like, why the hell would I shoot free throws with you? I don't even like basketball. Like, why would I play catch with Gary Gate or Paul Gate with a lacrosse stick? I don't like lacrosse. That's how I thought about the world when I was 23, right? Like, sure. I sat next to John Glenn one time for a ride and I didn't even really know what to ask him. So part of Baltimore Positive in my social studies courses, I'm trying to expand, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get with people that are different and do different things. This is one of the weird things that appeals to me that might be the gateway to get me fishing in Alaska, right? Might be the next thing I do that's not an Ajax game in Amsterdam or seeing Shohei Ohtani pitch or whatever that sports thing is. I'm trying to use this as a gateway. So part of this is, it's not important that I catch a fish. It's important that I have a good time with people that I want to have a good time with. So Eric Sauer is a fly fisherman. As you know, he had his life saved on the Bone Marrow Registry. He's There Goes My Hero and the founder. At some point, I'm going to get Dave Grohl involved in this, but that's a different vision. And my wife and all that. So I want to get you and him and Roderick's and his kid, and I want to like figure out this fly fishing thing. So maybe I can take my kid or my wife. My wife might do it. She might want to do it. She thinks she might. But like, I really want to do it. And there's nothing else I really need to learn how to do. It's sort of a bucket list thing to learn how to fly fish because I might like it.
There's no downside to it, Nestor, for all the reasons you just mentioned. There's zero downside. You get to be one with nature. You get the camaraderie with your friends. You get the thrill of learning a new skill, which is fly fishing, because anybody can throw out a regular spinning rod. And also the thrill of catching a fish, and also the thrill of cleaning the fish and frying the fish and eating the fish and being one with nature, being out there in the outdoors, continuing to being active and adding value to yourself as a person and to others. I think there's just so many benefits to fishing. It's a fantastic sport that you can actually enjoy until your 70s, 80s, 90s if you're fortunate to live that long.
Moeller was giving me a really hard time, and like, why? And I shouldn't scoff at it because he's known me 39 years, right? So like, I will respect this. But he was like, you're not going to be able to stay quiet in the woods. And I'm like,
So you don't have to. The
dude,
fish,
I don't need to
the
be talking to people.
fish.
But if I am in the woods with Rodriguez and you and Eric,
Hey, tell
I'm not
Moeller.
there to see a movie. Like, people ask me why I don't go to the movies, because like, why do I want to go on a date someplace and sit still and stare at some fantasy, not say a word, and then come out? I would rather experience reality, to your point, right?
Tell Moeller that fish don't live in the woods. You can be as loud as you want to. You can scream and holler. The fish won't be able to hear you. You can also have a conversation on the stream, and it's not going to affect the sound of your voice in a normal conversation. It's not going to affect the fish in the stream. You can talk. You can be a normal person. You can have a conversation.
See,
And that's part of it.
You're making me even more excited about this, because I do
What
like
do
to
you-
talk, but I don't
wh-
need to
Hey,
talk.
why do you think grandfathers and grandsons spend time fishing? Because it's great time in the water. You can be quiet. You can have a conversation. You can do anything and everything, and it's a
All right.
wonderful, wonderful.
Well, the first things first,
experience.
it's like when I did golf. I called Norm Vikoski. I got a lesson. I learned that my thumb goes this way. It's not a baseball bat, right? So I don't know. I'm missing a finger that I'm sure is going to be part of something, because it is my throwing hand and whatever.
It may.
So
Hey, you might be better off. You want to cast right hand and left hand and figure out which way you're. I'm right hand dominant, and my reel's on my
I'm
left
right-handed.
hand.
Yeah, I'm right-handed.
But a lot of people though that are right-handed have the reel on the other hand. So whatever feels good to you, that's what you do.
Well, this is what I'm going to learn all of this, right? And by the way, I put the rainbows up over me.
I love the rainbow.
Roderick sent me this video, and I'm going to try to pull it up here for you, and because I want to share it with you, because I'm really like, you and I, we've talked about going to a Barry Manilow concert. We've been to some football games together, but like, we've talked about doing something, and the fishing thing is totally your thing, and it's even cooler that you've never done it. Eric tells me about this glamp thing out in Savage Creek. It's called a yurt, Y-U-R-T. I don't even know what it was. It's a beautiful, like, woodsy thing, right? So
Okay.
I'm looking into it. It's a little pricey, but what the hell? I mean, I'm staying for free at the beach with Lachelle. So I want to show this to you, and I'm going to share the screen here and show you what he sent to me. All right. So this is his son. This is Nick here, the guy. This is Dan Roderick's son, and this is on the Savage River. Okay. And when I didn't know what kind of fish this was. Obviously, he caught a fish. And doesn't this look lovely? I mean, rolling water here, right? I mean, probably a little cool on a hot summer day. And you look in the net here in the end, and lo and behold, it is a rainbow trout.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Now, you said you would eat this.
I would eat. And that's the nice thing about trout. You have rainbow trout, you have brook trout, you have different types of trout. And again, once you're in that stream, you can pretend you're in Montana.
This looks better to me than hitting a golf ball. I love tennis. Like, my wife and I saw people hitting a tennis ball, and I can hit a tennis ball. Like, I'm a little afraid of blowing my knee out if I get competitive. I don't want to be on crutches. I got too much to do.
No, I hear you.
So making sure, but hitting a golf ball. I've been out on the golf course twice this year for charity events and whatnot, and it's just not the way I'm going to spend. I'm being intellectually honest with myself. It's not the way I'm going to spend time. But all this fishing, you've inspired me. Other people are doing it. I feel like it's something that I might not master. I don't need to master it. I don't need to be good at it.
You don't have to master it.
It doesn't feel dangerous to me. It doesn't feel stupid or risky to me. It feels beautiful to me. It feels attainable to me. So scuba diving would be, I mean, I could scuba dive, like I've done that before. That might be the next thing that I would do, but it doesn't feel as scuba diving. You can't talk, right?
There's also an element of danger, and a lot greater in scuba diving than fly fishing, for sure. A lot of things can go wrong. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. I understand.
Tank, a shark, barracuda, whatever. A lot of things can happen. But for me, it came down to being time poor. I had to make a choice between golf and fishing. One had to go, Nestor, and it was golf for all the reasons you just mentioned. It's just a lot more fun catching fish in the lake or in the stream and interacting versus chasing a little. And I'm not knocking it for the other people that play golf. It's just for me.
Dude, if you're lousy at golf, it is no fun at all. I mean,
Even,
even if you're good at
even
golf,
if you're good,
you're
look,
miserable.
you got heat. Sometimes the golf plays slow, and for me, I have a very fast pace. I like being the first one up the golf course. I
Go play
can't
with
stand.
Moeller because
Yeah,
he talks about it all the time. Slow pace.
I cannot slow pace. I'm leaving the golf course. I just don't have that kind of patience. I can get around in about 3 hours with one other player, maybe 2.5, because we just set up and hit the damn ball. You see people who are terrible. They're hacks. They'll pray over the ball for 3 minutes before they hit it, and the ball goes into the woods. I mean, you're not that good. Just hit the damn ball and move.
Well, we're going to hopefully fish here. Dennis Koulatsos here, Coons Ford. Selling car. Tell me, everyone I talk to in the industry talks about, shortage of vehicles and not having vehicles and getting vehicles. I mean, this is an American issue. It's also a worldwide issue, right?
It is. It's a global issue, but with the car industry at Nestor, there's always things going on, right? High gas prices, high interest rates, you name it, we face this. So you're better dealers, just like any other good business person. You figure it out. You just figure out what you're going to do. You don't focus what you don't have. You focus on what you do have and what you can get. And that's what we do here at Coons Ford. We focus on what we can get. And thankfully, we still have plenty of enough new cars coming in. We have a ton of pre-owned, pre-loved vehicles, over 300. And that is our focus. So we've been able to take very good care of our customer base.
I'm gonna give you a hard time right now because you've never put like your real back, or you're really sitting in your real office right now.
This
You
is
have
my
a
real
wall
office.
stacked up behind you. I can
What's
see them.
that?
I'm like, they're not on the wall. They're like, there's like 3 deep of like,
Oh,
and I'm like, is that
you
a
should see my
dealership?
desk.
Well, I can see Lamar Jackson jersey behind you.
You should see my award. I sit at the front desk, and behind me must be about 40 awards. I mean, it's insane. But you know what? People don't care about that. They care about how well we take care of them today. They don't care. Those things are for past performance. They care about can I take care of you today? And that's the only thing that matters in us.
Yeah,
Just like
I put the pictures up of the old awards, but I don't know if they mean much.
Look, it's just like going to a doctor, right? You want to see awards, but you also want to see current stuff, right? You don't want to see an award from 30 years ago. You want to see an award from 2021. You want a doctor that's in the game. That's what we pride ourselves on, being in the game today.
Are you asking if we were voted best of Baltimore Magazine in 2020 as Baltimore's best conversation? Because we were.
There you go. Boom. That's what's up. Not what happened in 1985 like some other stations. We want to talk about, a recency. We'll have a recency bias when it comes to stuff like that, because it is important. It's very relevant, Nestor. What have you done for me today? That's all that matters.
Well, Dennis, when I join you this week on your program, which can be heard, of course, here at Dennis Koulatsos Show, 3 to 5 on Thursday and again on Sunday mornings, when you and I get together, I'm supposed to be in New York. I'm going to be in New York. My wife and I are going to New York. It's the first thing we've done. I might as well brag about it. We're doing. I scored Springsteen tickets Thursday night. We're going to New York for 2 days, taking 2 days off. It's going to be 94 degrees in New York on Wednesday, right? And so this is my Monday morning argument with my wife, right? It wasn't even an argument. It was on text because I was doing broadcast with Luke. Shohei Ohtani is pitching Wednesday night in the Bronx, right? It's going to be 94 degrees Wednesday. We're there 2 days. We can do anything we want. We're going to see Springsteen Thursday. So Wednesday, we're not going to a theater. We're not doing, we're just going to go out and probably eat pizza, which is what we do. I look for soup dumplings. I look for pizza. I look for wings. I look for Asian food. I look for arepas from Venezuela. I look for pastries that I can only get in Portugal, pastéis de nata. Yeah, I have these specific things. A friend of mine sent me a place that's Ukrainian that has pierogies and guamki, like Polish food for my wife. So so we can do anything we want.
They have better water in New York. It's sweeter than Maryland water. So there you go. That's why the
Tap
food
water?
tastes better. Yeah, they have better water.
Dennis,
that's why the pizza's better. That's why the dumplings are better. It's the water. It's in the water. Same thing with Philadelphia.
I would say this. I told you about this Greek place in Soho that I went in and I was full. I took pictures and sent it. I said, this is the best looking Greek food I've ever seen in my life. It's all out on the counter. And I said to my wife, we're going back there for one meal. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to be hungry when I get there. I don't even know what I'm getting. I might just get some tomato salad with some cheese. I don't know. But I'm going to get something there. And I'm trying not to overindulge because I want to graze and eat as I go. So I said to my wife, you want to go see Ohtani pitch? She's like, let's consider it. Now, believe me, dragging my wife to Yankee Stadium on a 94-degree day, it would not even be my own first choice. But Ohtani is pitching. I've been to Yankee Stadium a dozen times, the new one. I've been to the old one 30 times. I don't need a trip to the Bronx. I'm trying to figure out how interested I really will be in seeing this legendary cat pitch, right? Where my sports thing is in this soccer thing.
Yeah.
And my wife says to me, let's go to the Bronx Zoo. I'm like, it's 94 degrees. I'm not staying at a zoo, you know? But like, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to wind up doing in New York and whether I'm really going to go to a baseball game.
Hey,
You
do
think
both.
Thursday morning I will have gone? I don't. What do you
Hey,
think?
go to the zoo in the morning and go to the game in the evening. Just do both. I would do both. You guys are fit enough and you're healthy enough, and why not do? That's the compromise.
When you're in the greatest city in the world for 2 days, what do you do?
Well, you know what? You can go to Times Square and accomplish both. You can have, you'll see baseball bats and you'll see a zoo.
I said to her, it's funny that she would mention that because everyone referred to the Yankees as the Bronx Zoo back in the day
The
with
Bronx Zoo. Hey,
Willie
you'll
Martin.
see. You might see some rosin too, right? You might see the new controversy. Some rosin on that baseball.
See Shohei Ohtani stripped down right
Come
there
on
in the
now.
Burrows.
Let's slow down an already slow game. That appeals to non-baseball fans like myself. That really makes me want to watch. Come on now, speed it up, speed it up.
Dude, I haven't been to a game all year. I'm in New York when Ohtani's pitching. It's a $2.50 subway ride and a $20 ticket or whatever. I'll report back to you, and this is where
Yeah.
my leaving the cliffhanger. I'm going to report back to you and let you know what I really did on New York on Wednesday. I probably turned in early and
can't wait to hear.
Dennis, I will see you on Thursday. As always, with 3 until 5, we're selling cars, and he's over at Coons Ford Security Boulevard. You can be followed at D Koulatsos Show out on the Twitter thing. I am Ness at BaltimorePositive.com. I'm out on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and in New York and in Baltimore. And by the way, in Harford County on Friday with Harford County Executive Barry Glassman, sitting down over a crab cake, our crab cake tour coming to Barrett's in Harford County on Friday, down to Anne Arundel County with Stuart Pittman next week, as well as with Johnny O in Baltimore County and Brandon Scott later on in the month as we kick it off in Ocean City. I'm Nestor. We are WNST AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.